All right, today's gospel reading is from John chapter 12, verses 1 through 18. I'll be doing a reading out of the Orthodox Study Bible. Then, 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, who had been dead, whom he had raised from the dead. There they made him a supper, and Martha served, but Lazarus was one of those who sat at the table with him. Then Mary took a pound of very costly oil of spikenard, anointed the feet of Jesus, and wiped his feet with her hair, and the house was filled with the fragrance of the oil. But one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, who would betray him, said, "Why was this fragrant oil not sold for 300 denarii and given to the poor?" This he said, not that he cared for the poor, but because he was a thief and had the money box, and he used to take what was put in it. But Jesus said, "Let her alone. She has kept this for the day of my burial. For the poor you have with you always, but me you do not always have." Now a great many of the Jews knew that he was there, and they came not for Jesus' sake only, but that they might also see Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. But the chief priests plotted to put Lazarus to death also, because on account of him many of the Jews went away and believed in Jesus. The next day, a great multitude that had come to the feast, when they had heard that Jesus was coming to Jerusalem, took branches of palm trees and went out to meet him and cried out, "Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, the King of Israel." Then Jesus, when he had found a young donkey, sat on it, as it is written, "Fear not, daughter of Zion. Behold, your king is coming, sitting on a donkey's colt." His disciples did not understand these things at first, but when Jesus was glorified, then they remembered that these things were written about him, and that they had done these things to him. Therefore, the people who were with him when he called Lazarus out of his tomb and raised him from the dead bore witness. For this reason, the people also met him, because they had heard that he had done this sign. The Pharisees, therefore, said among themselves, "You see that you are accomplishing nothing. Look, the world has gone after him." Explanation here on some of these. Verse 1, the Passover is the third mentioned in John, and is the setting for the last week of Christ's earthly ministry, which is narrated in careful detail. Jesus had already been glorified through his signs and words. It remained for him to be glorified through his death and resurrection. Verses 3 through 8. The other disciples said the same thing Judas said, but with very different motive. Judas spoke from greed, while the others spoke from the virtue of charity. That Jesus put a thief in charge of the money shows that by every means he attempted to save Judas. He fulfilled Judas's lust for money. He allowed Judas to exercise apostolic authority. He washed Judas's feet with the other disciples, and he allowed him to partake at the table of the mystical supper. Yet Judas could not overcome his greed. Verses 12 through 18. The triumphal entry into Jerusalem is also mentioned, obviously, in Matthew chapter 21, verses 1 through 11. Amen.